Okay, welcome back. So now we're going to do a very simple exercise, but very fundamental exercise in any form of, analyzing financial statements when you get them as part of an exhibit, is we are going to common size the financial statements. And we're provided with both the income statement and the balance sheet. So we're going to go ahead and common size the income statement first. What we mean by common size is we want to put all the dollar amount as a percentage of, for the income statement, as a percentage of revenues, revenues or sales. That way we kind of know on a percentage basis for every dollar that comes in, what is it spent on, right? Like how many cents goes to what type of expense, and then how many cents drops to the bottom line. So for income statements, we common size an income statement by putting everything in terms of a percentage of sales. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that the fast way within Excel. I'm going to scroll up. So this is exercise B1, sorry. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and scroll up to the income statement. And I'm going to go ahead and copy the line items of the income statement. Control C to copy. Control V to paste. I'm going to delete the B1 marker here. Okay. And common sizing it, again, I'm putting everything as a percentage of sales. For a bank, this is kind of unique because banks, their sales, right, their revenue is interest income. The banking industry, it's slightly different than most places that you'll see, but the money that they bring in is essentially the interest that they earn, right? So interest income. So I'm going to take the first line item and I'm going to divide it by total interest income. Okay. And it logically is 100%, right? Because total interest income as a percentage of total interest income should be 100%. Now, you can do this along with me if you want to. I want this formula, right? I want this type of calculation. Divide by interest income for each line item in 2001. And then I want to repeat that calculation for 2000, for 1999, for 1998. Okay. So you may think that you're just going to drag down. Oops, sorry, these cells are merged. I'm going to unmerge them. You might think that I'm just going to drag all the way down and then drag all the way to the right. And you're like, why is everything all 100%? This seems so not right. I'm going to click in one of these cells. Now, I know that this cell should be the salary and employee benefits, right? The salary and employee benefits for the year 2000 divided by total interest income for 2000. But what is it? It is actually salary and employee benefits divided by salary and employee benefits for 2000. Okay. So what happens here is as I drag formulas to the right, Excel is going to move all the references in that formula to the right. And as I drag formulas down, Excel is going to also drag the references in the formula down. Now, in this equation, I'm going to zoom in even more. In this equation, I want the numerator to move as I drag to the right and as I drag down. So I want the numerator, the top of the fraction, to move. Okay, but the bottom of the equation, I always want it to reference total interest income. So as I drag down, no matter how far down I drag that formula, I always want the row reference to reference row 4, because that's where my total interest income is, right? But as I drag that denominator to the right, I want the column reference to change, right? Because I want 2001's expenses to be as the percentage of 2001's interest income. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an absolute reference. If you're on a PC, you can go ahead and hit the F4 key. And you'll notice that with one press of the F4 key inside this formula, Excel will put dollar signs in front of the column, which is the D, and the row, which is the number reference. Keep on pressing F4, and you'll notice that every single time I press F4, Excel is going to cycle through where those dollar signs are. Wherever there is a dollar sign, Excel is going to hold that reference constant. So here, with dollar sign in front of the D and dollar sign in front of the 4, Excel is going to hold the column D constant and the row 4 constant, no matter where I drag this formula. So for example, what I mean is I'm going to drag the formula right, and I'm going to drag the formula down. You see how the denominator stays D4, no matter where I dragged that formula, but the numerator has moved. The numerator has moved as I dragged to the right and as I dragged down, okay? Now, remember, right, what we talked about. We want the row reference to stay still, but we want the column to move as we're, doing our calculations for different years. So I want to cycle through the absolute references so that the column will move and the row stays constant. So there should be a dollar sign in front of the row reference, the 4, but no dollar sign in front of the column reference, the D, which I do want to move. So now I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to drag across and I'm going to drag down. Okay, and I'm going to double check my formula. So F11 divided by F4, that should be, yep, additional non-interest expense divided by the interest income for that year. So I can be confident now that the formula that I wrote is correct. Now, because we have the beauty of Excel, I'm just going to copy and paste all the way across for industry also. Okay, and now we have a common sized income statement. Okay. If we want to kind of keep this formatting like with all the lines, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select, one of the years. I'm going to take the format painter. Oops. And I'm going to paint the format. Okay, and you'll notice that all the lines are there, but all of my percentages have now been changed into decimal and dollar sign formats. Since these are a percentage of interest income, I want to put them back into percentages. I'm going to use the percentage format. I'm going to take it out 1 decimal point. And since this is a calculation, I'm going to make sure everything is in red. And there we go. Now we have a perfectly formatted common sized income statement for both commerce and for industry. Okay. And there are a couple of questions that I would like you to think about as you look through these common sized percentages. So that would be question number 4, keep in mind commerce's main funding mechanism. So I'm asking you to think about the interest expense, to look at this line, the provisions for loans and leases, the salary and employee benefits, this one, and the premise and equipment. So do a quick comparison on how much of, revenues commerce spends on each of these line items versus how much of revenues industry spends on these expenses, and kind of speak to the differences a little bit and how that is or is not consistent with your understanding of commerce's service design. And I will see you in the next video.